We had a viewer comment that they would really like to see a video on YouTube of live view of me pinning for our Simple Pin account, because I have talked a lot in a lot of other videos about pinning, your daily pinning schedule, how many pins per day are you doing, how much content are you creating. And when I make those videos, I also say that we do not pin new content every single day, but I do fill up the schedule with 10 pins per day. So how do I do that? That is what we are going to talk about today. And I'm really just going to do my usual pinning right here. Okay, so I have opened up my Tailwind account and my Pinterest account over here. So every Thursday I pin for Simple Pin Media, and my goal is to fill up our schedule, which I have 10 slots per day. Now, as you can see, a lot of this is already filled out, and that is because I use interval pinning, and I pin a pin to all of its relevant boards, and I space that out in an interval with so many days in between, going to all of those different boards. So this is how I can fill up my schedule without creating tons of pins for one URL or having to create fresh content all the time. So here at Simple Pin Media, we create one core piece of content per week, and that is our podcast, which we also roll into a blog post. And then sometimes we have like a free opt-in going on, or like a free webinar or something like that, which I do have happening today. And then I also pin our YouTube channel. So today I'm going to show you kind of what I do to add those pins in. So first of all, I'm going to add the new pins that I've never pinned before. So I'm going to go to create new pin, pause. I want to tell you that what you're seeing here on my Tailwind page is not what you would see if you are brand new to Tailwind. You go and sign up for their free offer or you pay for it. It's going to look very different because they have changed the face of how they operate. So if you want it to look more like this, where you're just looking at a bunch of pins in a queue, you're going to have to specifically ask Tailwind to switch it to the original publisher. And so that's what I have to switch it to every time. And if you don't have this option, then what you can do is come down here to the question mark and start a chat with them and ask them to give you that option to switch to the original publisher. So I come up here to create pin. And this is where I'm going to upload pins that I already have saved in my computer. So I have 2 pins, and these 2 pins are leading to a free opt-in. I am also going to grab the URL as soon as this is done uploading. And then we're going to see these pins in drafts. So I'm going to click here, add the correct URL, and that's automatically going to update the pin title here. Sometimes it's not what you want it to be, so you need to make sure you check your pin title. And then you're going to add a description. Sometimes I can grab the description right here in the back end of in the metadata, I mean. So I grab the description from the metadata and copy paste. And now I want to add my boards. Now here's another thing with the old publisher, the original publisher of Tailwind, and this is another reason why the account specialist at Simple Pin like the original publisher. So 1, we can interval pin. 2, we can add our board list. So you can create lists. You can create all kinds of different lists that have specific boards in those lists. So it's kind of like creating categories, which makes it a lot faster for you to pick boards that are relevant to that pin. So I'm going to click on tools, and anything that's not relevant, I'm just going to click out of. So I'm just weeding through here. Things like pinning strategy, Pinterest tips, marketing education, stuff like that I'm going to keep because that is what this is all about. It's teaching you how to market on Pinterest effectively. So you can always do different boards for the second pin that is, going to the same place. But for time's sake, I'm just going to throw up some boards here. Okay, so now I want to use the interval. So that is down here. I'm going to click on use interval. And this is where you can determine how much time is between each pin. So this pin is going to be pinned to all of these boards. And depending on when you set the interval, that's how often it's going to go out to those boards. I usually have our interval at 7 days. So I'm just going to say set that interval, and then you can hit schedule, and it's going to populate in your schedule. I'm going to do the same for this one. Okay, so that's adding a new pin. I already added our pin for our core piece of content, our blog post podcast pins. I've already added that to the queue. So let's just say, okay, I did that, my weekly new pins. We just make 2 pins per piece of content. I've added them, they're done. So now what? I want to fill the schedule up for a whole 7 days because the next time I come in here is going to be next Thursday. So I want to make sure my schedule is filled up. So I have these empty spots. And so this is where people get hung up a lot and they ask, what about that? What do you do for that? So all I do for that is I go to our Pinterest account and I click on saved. And then I go to a board that I maybe haven't spent a lot of time in recently, or I haven't really paid attention to recently. And I go into that board and I kind of scroll down a little bit because all of these pins at the top are more recent pins that we've pinned there. So I kind of scroll down and I start to look for pins that I know I haven't pinned in a while. And that is it. That is basically what I do. Now, something that you can keep in mind when you are trying to figure out how to fill up the rest of your schedule is what season is it? What season is coming up? What trends are coming up? What tends to be your popular whatever pin at this time of year? Are those things coming up for you? If so, then those are pins that you want to go back to and go ahead and schedule them again. My cat keeps wanting attention, so he is just coming into the frame. Say hello, Clyde. Anyway, so that is all I do. So if I'm in a board and I say, okay, I haven't pinned this pin in a while, I'm going to hit the Tailwind extension button there, and it's going to populate the pin, or it should. There it is. So it already has the title, the pin description, and it looks good to me, so I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just going to add it to the boards that I want to add it to. So I might just do something different that I don't think I've ever done before. I have done it before, so this is good to see. This little I button, it tells you that you have pinned this URL to this board 5 months ago. But I did not pin this pin to this board 5 months ago. So that's what that's telling you. However, if let's see, what was this board? It is the Pinterest Marketing for Businesses. So if I hit that, it should, so then you're going to get this symbol, the kind of caution symbol. This means that you've pinned this pin to this board 23 days ago. So that's a little too close. I usually try to do at least a month or longer before I pin it again to that board. So I will exit out of that. I can keep that there because actually this board has never seen this pin. It has seen that URL, but not that pin. So that's what I'm going to do for that. And for time's sake, we're just going to keep it like that. I did not do more than one board, so the interval pinning option did not come up. So I'm just going to say schedule now, or you can say save for later, and it will go to your drafts in Tailwind, and you can do mass scheduling from your drafts. It just depends on what you prefer. So that's how I fill up the schedule. I just keep going through these pins that are already pinned on our Pinterest account. I pay attention to seasons, things that are coming up that I know are typically like higher volume clicks for us. I make sure I get those pins into our schedule. I also look at analytics, our analytics, and I look at top performing pins. And if I haven't been pinning them recently, then I'll pin them again, things like that. There's a ton of different ways that you can fill up your schedule. So hopefully that helps and explains what I mean when I say we fill up our schedule with 10 pins per day, but we don't create tons and tons of content, and we don't create tons and tons of pins per piece of content. A few things I want you to keep in mind as you watch this video and decide what you are going to do with your scheduling. One, number of pins per day is not a set number. It really depends on how much content you create, how much content you already have, things like that. There are some clients that we pin for that are only 5 pins per day, and there are some that are all the way up to 30 pins per day. It really just depends. You have to find your sweet spot. The other thing is, again, if you want to do interval pinning, if you want to have board list, then you will have to specifically ask Tailwind to give you the option to click on original publisher. Another thing to keep in mind, if you need to move a pin because something happened, it's not really in the right day, it needs to go to a different day, you just need to make sure that you hover over the pin that is in the schedule, click on it, drag it, and drop it in the cell that you want it to be in. It's pretty easy. Another thing I want you to keep in mind is that yes, with Tailwind you can upload video pins through this same avenue, but I actually recommend that you upload video pins directly onto Pinterest, just because Pinterest has all of the other options like being able to tag products, being able to topic tag, among various other features that are in the Pinterest app. So that is typically what I do. If I have a video pin, I am uploading it directly onto Pinterest. Another thing to keep in mind, and the reason why there are many reasons why we really like Tailwind. One of them, what I've already said, interval pinning, board list. Another one is Tailwind extension, and getting the Tailwind extension is going to help you kind of streamline, save time, things like that, because when you use the Tailwind extension, you get to easily pin. So this pops up when I have the Tailwind extension, and I can just send that over to my drafts, or I can schedule it right away. Another reason I like the Tailwind extension is because I can pull up, it's not going to work for me right now, but I can pull up metadata, so pin description that you've already created in your website, along with any pins that you have embedded with a blog post or something like that. It's going to show up in the Tailwind extension. And that's basically it, guys. There are a lot of different things you can do with your Tailwind account. They also have really great analytics, board analytics, pin analytics, and they also have communities where you can join different communities that are kind of in your niche, and you can cross promote, share each other's pins. That's another great way to spread the love, if you will. So many things you could do. If you guys have questions, drop them in the comments. I am here to answer them. We'll see you guys next week.